Hello, welcome back to my channel. No new videos you'll have noticed for the last couple of weeks. Really sorry about that. I had some kind of weird flu-y illness, not COVID, but some kind of coldy flu-y thing. And then I got laryngitis. You can probably still hear it. My voice is not the best, but I couldn't talk at all for about a week or so. Hence no new videos, but we are back. So this week I'm going to be talking about what to do if you are writing a novel and you get partway through your draft and it is just like you're wading through treacle, you completely run out of steam and you need some help to get back on track. So if that sounded... I'm going to say that again. So if that type of content is the sort of thing you're interested in, please like the video, subscribe to the channel. It makes such a difference if people subscribe. So please do. Before we get into that though, a little bit of news that we might have missed from the last 2 weeks. The first excitement is that I'm shortlisted for an award, don't you know? So I'm shortlisted as Indie Editor of the Year in the Romantic Novelist Association Industry Awards. And those are awards that honour the people kind of behind the scenes in the publishing industry. And I'm shortlisted as an indie editor, so that's a freelance editor working mostly with authors who are looking to self-publish, independently publish their own stories. So I'm really excited about that. The award ceremony is tomorrow. That's Friday the 11th. So by the time you're watching this today, or possibly in the past. So next week's video will be all about that. We'll be doing some vlogging during the awards party. And so I'll let you all know how that goes. The other very exciting news is that my new novel, A Season for Love, which I will put the cover for somewhere up here, is now available to pre-order. So it's out on January 12th, but you can order it now from all good booksellers and probably from some terrible booksellers as well. I make no moral judgments about booksellers. They're all marvellous. So please do pre-order that. It's a modern rom-com. It's super fun. It's very 21st century, but it has a kind of little Regency twist to it. So if that sounds like a fun idea, please do go pre-order that right now. And if you are a book reviewer or book blogger, that will be available for the next few weeks via NetGalley as well. So if you're a book reviewer, book talker, booktuber, bookstagrammer, anything like that, and you use NetGalley, do hop over to NetGalley and request that, A Season for Love. So on with the video. Right, so to write a novel, you essentially need to go through two big processes. The first is that you need to write the thing, and then the second is that you need to edit and polish the thing. And the way I think about those processes is always to think that you write the novel kind of for yourself. The first draft is you telling the story to yourself, and then your editing is polishing it up and working out how best to communicate that story to a reader. Now, different people spend different lengths of time on different part of the process. I am very much an editor at heart, so I tend to write my first drafts as quickly and as shoddily as possible so that I've got something down on paper to edit. Then once I've got something there, I can edit it and polish it and make it lovely, hopefully. Other people work in different ways. Other people plan a lot more and try and end up with a first draft that is much cleaner, much closer to the book they will eventually either publish or submit to publishers, and they might spend less time editing. Neither way is right or wrong. It's all what works for you, but at some point you're going to have to write a first draft, and at some point during writing that first draft, it is very likely that you will feel like you are horribly stuck. So this video is all about that. What do you do to try and get through that mental block, get through that sticky patch and continue with your draft? And it's particularly relevant right now when I'm filming this. I'm filming this on the 10th of November. It's going to come out on YouTube on the 11th. So we're about a third of the way through NaNoWriMo month. So there'll be a lot of people out there at the moment writing first drafts and maybe just now getting to that point where they're starting to run out of steam a little bit. And that's what I'm here to help with. I'm going to get my bottle of water now though, because I'm going to cough a lot filming this. Okay, bottle of water collected. Hopefully that means I can get through talking to you a little bit longer without a coughing fit. So, there are lots of reasons that we can get a bit stuck and we can get a bit bogged down while we're writing the first draft of a novel. The first actually has nothing to do with the book at all, and it is just about that kind of routine of sitting down every day and writing words and writing words and writing words and writing words. And at some points, obviously, that routine is a total joy, and at other points it does feel like a bit of a grind. And as with any other task that goes on and on and on, it can get monotonous and it can get tiring. So the first thing to think about when you're stuck in a rut and you just don't feel like you're making progress and you can't find the will to kind of keep grinding out those words is that you might just be tired. Mental and creative fatigue is totally a thing, so it's fine to just go for a walk, do something different for a bit. Doing something physical is quite nice because it's not exercising your brain in quite the same way. Go out of the house, look at the sky, look at the buildings, look at the flowers. It's November, there probably aren't flowers. It depends where you are in the world. Where I am, not so many flowers. But look around you, breathe, move your body, get away from your desk, get away from your laptop for a little bit, and just experience something different. It might just be that you need a little refresh. So that's absolutely fine to take the opportunity to do that. Or you might just need a little creative refresh. So there's nothing to stop you from pausing your novel just for like half an hour, not for days and days and days necessarily. This can literally just be for half an hour, 20 minutes, and write something different. Free write, just sit, write longhand, whatever comes to mind. If you find that difficult, if it's easier for you to write from a prompt, hop onto the internet, look for a painting, a picture, a visual image, and write something that you feel led to write from that. Just literally, it can just be 2 minutes of free writing for something completely different to just spark your creativity again and get you out of that mindset where it just feels like this is a trudge through a process. So it might just be that you're mentally and creatively a little bit fatigued. Take the opportunity to rest, take the opportunity to have a little bit of a reboot and a refresh, and then hopefully you'll feel able to kind of come back to your writing a little bit more invigorated. My bra strap is like halfway down my arm. This is really annoying. See, that's what you get on YouTube, authenticity. Bra strap wrangling mid-video. It's a beautiful thing. So the other thing that's a beautiful thing is that I am just recovering from the biggest cold sore in the history of cold sores. It was like literally like half an inch across here. It's gone now, but it's still a bit red. I didn't put makeup on before I recorded this video. As you can see, I'm just like literally sitting on my bed to record this video. My office is too much of a tip to recording there where I normally record. Everything's got away from me a bit the last couple of weeks. I've been ill. It's not my fault. Moving on, I have my notes for this video on a very attractive blue post-it note. Moving on, so if it's not just mental fatigue, what else might make you run out of steam while you're writing a first draft? Well, most commonly, you just get to a point where you don't know what happens next, and you can't think what happens next, and there are no ideas in the bank of what might happen next, and you get into this sort of paralysed state of thinking, I don't know, I just don't know, I just don't know, I can't type anything, and you just sitting, staring at the screen, not knowing what to do. I think the biggest thing that helps me break out of those sorts of moments is remembering that it doesn't have to be perfect. So if you're someone like me who writes without a plan, pretty much every time you get towards the end of a scene, you're going to hit a moment where you don't really know what happens next. And sometimes you move through those quite easily. Something will have happened, something will have happened in a previous scene that's kind of sparked your thinking to think, okay, well then they can go here, or then they can meet this person, or oh, X needs to happen. But sometimes you will get to the end of a scene and it will be like a hard stop, and you will just have no idea what might be going to happen next for those characters. And the best thing I think then is to try and get out of the habit of thinking, what happens next? What is the one correct thing that I have to find? And start thinking, what could happen next? And you can go as crazy and as wild as you like with that answer to that question. I quite like to start writing a list, and the challenge if I'm writing on an A4 pad is to fill the whole page. So I've got something on every line of what could happen next. And some of those things will be absolutely ridiculous. They'll be like, you know, dragons appear, which if you're writing epic fantasy might be perfectly plausible. If you're writing a contemporary rom-com, it's kind of off-brand, shall we say. But then some of them could be more sensible. It could be this character finds out she's pregnant. Okay, maybe that wasn't in your original plan, but if you're like me, you didn't have an original plan, so it doesn't matter. What would the implications of that be? Does it work for your story? It could be that they meet someone. It could be that you throw in a new character. It could be that another character does something unexpected. But try and think what could happen next rather than what does happen next or what should happen next, because you're not trying to find the one perfect answer. You're just trying to break that block and find something that allows you to carry on. What a break. The other thing that I quite like to try in that situation is to just make a little mini plan. So I'm not someone who plans the whole novel out before I start. I find that quite constraining if I do that. And once I've planned the whole thing, beginning, middle and end, I know how all the story resolves, I really have very little interest in writing it. I kind of write to discover what happens. But one thing that I do if I get a little bit stuck, if I get a little bit bogged down, if I really don't know what comes next, is just plan the next 3 scenes. And I can do that again and again and again. If I get to the end of those 3 scenes and still nothing sparking, I plan the next 3 scenes. And it's just enough for you to feel like you have a kind of route map, you have a kind of direction of travel without feeling constrained by knowing the whole story inside and out before you start. And I can do that off the back of playing that what if game. So I make my list of all the things that could happen, pick a couple that I like, and then like kind of battle out, okay, what would flow from that? What would the next 2 scenes after that be? And then set off down one of those paths. And sometimes I don't even stick to that plan for the next 3 scenes. Sometimes I write the scene that I had in mind, and by the time I've got to the end of that, I've thought of something better for what could happen after it. But it's just enough to get me going again. The other thing that I always suggest asking yourself, if you find you're getting stuck, if you find you don't know what happens next, if you find you don't know what your character's going to do next in a situation, is how well do you know your main characters? Because everything that your characters do in your story should come out of who they are as individuals. So if you find yourself consistently struggling to think, okay, what would this character do next? What would happen next? How would they react to that? It might be because you don't quite know those characters well enough. So it might be worth spending a bit of time on that, just trying to flesh out who your characters are, what their backstory is, what their relationships are, what their priorities in life are, what do they want in the story as a whole, in their life, in this particular scene. So spending a bit of time working that out can be a really helpful way to get past a block as well. Because if you really know who that character is, by the time you get to the next scene where you need to think, okay, how are they going to react to that? What are they going to do next? It should be a lot easier because you really know that person. Flipping that around though, what if you are a planner? What if you have written a whole plan for your novel and you get to 20,000 words, 30,000 words, 40,000 words, and it's just not working, even though you have written down what should happen next, what the next scene should be, you find that you're struggling to push through. Well, it might just be that mental and creative fatigue that we talked about at the start of the video, in which case take a break, refresh, refill the well. Or it could be that there's a problem with your plan. And this is where you have to then make some decisions, and the decision making can be the thing that feels most difficult when you're writing, because it feels like when you make a decision, you're committing to that for the next 70,000 words or for the next 6 months or 9 months or whatever it is of your life. I think let go of that mindset is really good advice. So if you have a plan, you're however many words into it and it's not quite working, you have to make a decision. And that decision is, are you going to stick to the plan that you made originally, or are you going to change it? And again, try not to think in terms of there is one perfect correct answer to this question. Try to think in terms of, what am I going to try today? And if today you try changing the plan, and then tomorrow you look at that and think, actually, no, what I had originally was stronger, or actually, I don't quite like that, but it has illuminated that what I had originally wasn't right, I'm going to make a different plan. That's still fine. That initial day you spent changing the plan isn't wasted. It's the work you had to do to reach the conclusion you needed to reach. Similarly, if you go, no, I liked my original plan, I was happy with it when I wrote it, I'm going to stick to it, I'm going to power through, I'm going to keep trying to grind out these scenes as I planned them. And 2 or 3 or 4 days down the line, or 2 or 3 or 4 months down the line, you go, actually, no, that point when I got stuck, my brain was telling me something, I should have reassessed then and made changes. That still isn't wasted time. It's the process you had to go through to get to that conclusion. Sometimes we have to try the wrong thing to work out what the right thing is. So get rid of the mindset of, I have to decide this now, and I have to decide it correctly, and I have to decide it perfectly, because this is a process. And some of the time it's a process of trial and error. Whether you plan or not, it can be a process of trial and error. So let yourself go wrong. Let yourself fail in interesting ways, because those ways will point you towards where you actually do want to be. And here endeth the lesson. I hope some of that was useful advice. If you have any questions at all about any element of writing a novel, editing a novel, publishing a novel, please do pop them in the comments. Please do as well pre-order A Season for Love. I would love you greatly if you did. And as ever, please, please, please like and subscribe to this video. If you enjoy this channel, do share it with other writer friends, and they might find something they enjoy here too. And until next week, when I will be talking all about the R&A Industry Awards and the experience of being shortlisted and going to the awards ceremony and all that good stuff, I will love you and leave you. Good night.